Okay, today's class is sponsored again by Dr. Shmuel for his father's yahrzeit this week, Rabbi ben Shlomo. Shlomo Shirav and Aliyah. Okay, we're on page Zayin of the Rebbe's Mayim Tov Mem Gimel. Okay, so the last thing that Rebbe is explaining is that the birur has to come through Torah. And therefore, just like in Shibud Mitzrayim, the slavery of Egypt, there was chaymer, bulveinim, the hard work, bricks and mortar and all that stuff. So now in Golus it says, is chaymer, bulveinim is in learning Torah, the concept of kavul chaymer and liban hilchas, and therefore Torah talks in detail about the idol worshipping and all the evil things, because that's the way you refine even the level of klipa. Even shalosh klipas is complete evil, even in a way of details of it. And you can add to this, we find this also in the Gemara. In Masechta Tainis, the Gemara says in Masechta Tainis, Rabbi Yitzchak kol ha'emer rachav achav miyad nikra. Okay, there was a beautiful woman called Rachav. Okay, she was so beautiful. The Gemara says if somebody would just say her name, they would waste seed automatically. Because of the lengthening of goats. They could explain in many places. Amalei Rav Nachman. So Rav Nachman said to Rabbi Yitzchak, I said, nothing happens. He said, the Gemara says, whoever says the name Rachav is going to get affected by them. So he said, I said, nothing happens to me. He says, Amalei ki kamina b'yodu makira. Okay? He says, only if you knew her, and then you would say the name, that would have, like he explained in his father, Levi Yitzchak. Pratin Yom explains this Gemara according to Kabbalah. So what is the meaning of this Gemara in simple language? When a person occupies himself in klipa, in a way of the yedo makira, okay? He knows it, he recognizes evil. He becomes bound to evil. Like the Gemara says, B'yayda das is his kashrus binding. And the recognition and the feeling of these things. Then you come to a level that's inappropriate. In other words, what the Gemara is saying over here, when you're bound to evil, in other words, you're not stam, like Rav Nachman said, I say it and it doesn't happen to me, because he wasn't bound to evil. A person is v'yayda makira, Rachav represents the zayna, the prostitute, which represents evil. So he says, when you have a connection to evil, in a subjective way, that means it's part of you, then you come to inyan, kamei be'inyan zeh. Shabala of an Ayudah Rahman al-Islam, the same thing when a person is involved in evil, so connection to evil brings a person down. But when a person is not acquainted with evil, but they only know das avicha, they only have a feeling of elokus. When this the pasuk says, know the God of your father and serve him with a full heart, which means the only way to come to serve Hashem with a full heart is when you feel elokus. So this person, instead of having a feeling, a connection and binding to evil, he says, I don't know that level. I don't know. Means I don't know it. Meaning I only connected to Elokus as then you're not afraid of having a connection to them. The Rebbe is saying a very interesting point. He's saying, when a person is connected to evil, that's when evil can affect him. Both. That's it. But if a person doesn't know it, meaning he's not bound to it, then even when you deal with it from a Torah perspective, nothing's going to happen to you. Like Rav Nachman said, I say nothing happens to me. Why? Because he says because you don't know her. You don't know the level of evil. You don't feel the level. You're not bound to evil. So therefore, like this, the Rebbe always explains that when a person is in an environment, you're in a place, one of two things must happen. Either you affect them or they affect you. If that's a scenario, you're in a place and nothing's happening, it's because you're not in the place. You might physically be there, but you're not bound, you're not connected to the place. It's impossible to be connected to a place where one of two things must happen. Either you change them or they change you. As we know, in sports, the best defense is offense. And that's what the Rebbe will say, when you send out shluchim to all these crazy places where there's no Yiddishkeit, so because you're there to change the people, then the likelihood of you being changed is minimal. And that's what he says, that's the level when a person learns Torah, and they connect to in the details about Avodah Zarah. But they're doing it from a Torah perspective. They're not connected to Avodah Zarah, so then not only they don't become affected, but they elevate through Torah even Shal Shivtzat Tameis.
What about Tava?
But what?
Tava. Tava says somebody who's
An appetite.
Taiva, I know what Taiva means. What do you think I'm a tzaddik? Taiva, a temptation, means you're connected to it, you're bound to it. By the way, Taiva comes from Das. If you're not bound to it, you can't want it. You want it because you're bound to it.
Hashem put the Tava in everybody.
Yeah, but the question is, what do we do with it? Do we transform the Taiva to Lukus, or do we transform the Taiva to evil? What?
Is the definition of balance when you're in thought, when you're mixing an intense emotion with thought? Is that once it becomes balance?
Yeah. In other words, somebody could be learning, let's say, 10 hours a day, 18 hours a day. That doesn't necessarily mean they're bound to it. How would you know? When they close the book and they walk into the street, what falls into their head? What falls into your head is where you're at. You could be learning something, but it's not you. You're not one with it. If you'd be one with it, then even when you close the book or walk in the street, you're still thinking about it.
So I would say Galat Ma'aseh because the Ma'aseh Ikar.
Ma'aseh Ikar, but it doesn't mean thought is. If I think about putting on tefillin, it's not like I put it on. Machshava K'Ma'aseh means that the thought of doing something good becomes the wings, the feeling, love and fear that makes the thing fly upward. It makes the bird fly up, but it's not the bird itself. So, yeah, if you think about doing mitzvahs and you don't do them, you're not going to get anywhere. Nice thought. I mean, it's better than thinking who knows what. Because then he occupies with klipa. The way they're a part of Torah, to such an extent. In other words, if the laws of Torah is one long Torah, right? Every part of Torah completes one another. If the laws of Avodah Zarah would be missing from Torah, you wouldn't have a complete Torah. If a person learns, remember, the Arizal says, the neshama has to keep coming back until it does all mitzvahs and learns all parts of Torah. Yeah? So if a neshama learns every part of Torah except Avodah Zarah, which obviously deals with evil, nevertheless, he didn't finish the Torah. He has to come back. In other words, not only is Avodah Zarah learning Avodah Zarah from the Torah perspective, not only you'll become affected by it, but you affect that, you elevate it through Torah, that completes Torah. Because without it, Torah is incomplete. Like it says, Shein Hefesh, the Gemara says, in the pasuk of Timna Haisa Pilegesh, there's a pasuk that says that Timna was a Pilegesh of Esav, yeah? And the Gemara says there's no difference between that, which seemingly Timna was a concubine of Esav. Okay? It's not a very holy pasuk. And the Gemara says there's no difference between that, okay? And the Rambam says, and Beinonechi Hashem Elokecha. The Rambam says, Pirish Mishnayos, and either the Gemara alludes to it in Sanhedrin. There's no difference in Torah between Timna Haisa Pilegesh, that Timna was the concubine of Esav, versus Anecha Hashem. There's no difference.
We stand up, or Timna we don't.
No, if you have one letter that's missing in Timna, you can't even read the Torah.
By the way, there are opinions, in fact the Rambam alludes to this, by the way, we don't pasqually that, but the Rambam seems to imply that you shouldn't stand up for Necha Hashem Lakecha, because why is that holy in Timna Haisa Pilegesh? But the minig Eilam is that, because it's Aser Sedibis, not that Timna Haisa Pilegesh is any less holy. Hainu Shenyoni Ater Shemedabrim, Eides Mata Mata. The terrorist thing that talk about the lowest of the low, are in the same level of Kedusha V'Necha Hashem Elokecha, because it's all Torah. In addition to the fact by learning Torah in these things, there's a Gemara that says, it's not a Gemara, it's a Mishnah, that says Kli Cheres, earthenware vessels, you can't purify. En lam tara. He says, the Gemara says, Shvirasan, Zui Takanasan. Breaking them, that's the only way you can fix them. In other words, how do you untuma a tamei kli cheres, earthenware vessel? You have to break it. By the way, the Gemara says, Chassidus explains, a person is a kli cheres. We're made from earthenware. What did Hashem? We're from dirt. We go back to the dirt. Afar ata, right? A person's body is from afar. Yeah? So how do you purify the body? The only way is by breaking it. Not breaking it in a way that's no good. Breaking the klip of the body and using the body to elevate the Kedusha. That becomes the Aved of the person of Asay. In other words, not only is it Sur Meirah, but like he quoted before, it's the Baal Shem Tov. Sheyasem Meirah Tov. The Baal Shem Tov said on the pasuk Sur Meirah, he said this before, turn away from evil. Simply pasuk, turn away from evil and do good. The Baal Shem Tov said no, Sur Meirah, Va'aseh, make the Ra Tov. I mean, when you deal with evil from a Torah perspective, learning Torah and elevating that thing, not only do you not break it, you elevate it to Kedusha, because it's learning Torah. Yesh lahayisif. Okay, we can add to this in Eis Ches. Ba'emek yes, in a deeper way, Hinei Masha calls it Bezer Shemei Rabbeinu Hoyer and Meklipis Pari. Okay, it says Moshe Rabbeinu in Chumash. It says Moshe Rabbeinu was afraid to go to Pari. This is the beginning of the Pasha. Hashem said, Moshe Be'al Pari. Come with me. So Medrash says Moshe Rabbeinu was afraid to go to Pari. Well, you can understand Chachma Vatzilis with the pits of evil. So he says, okay? He says, Moshe Rabbeinu understood as follows. The only way I could elevate Pare if I connect to it. Like if you don't connect to it, then you have no connection to it, then you can't elevate it. So Hashem says to Moshe, go elevate Pare. Moshe Rabbeinu was afraid. He says, 1 minute, that means I have to be connected to evil. I don't want to be connected to evil. I don't want to be connected to evil. So Hashem says, Hashem came with him. Why? Hashem doesn't care, good, bad, Hashem it's all equal.
Even if the results are saving all Bnei Israel, he doesn't
No, he doesn't want. But a Jew knows, you ask about the original guy, why Moshe Rabbeinu was afraid to elevate evil. It's every Jew, not Moshe Rabbeinu. But the Torah is everybody, yeah? Hashem says to Moshe, go elevate Klippa. Moshe Rabbeinu Yid says, I don't want to. I don't want to connect to evil. Rebbe Shua, you think you're going alone? You're going with your own powers? Boy, come. I'm coming with you. Not on a regular basis. When Hashem sends a person into a situation of klipa, that the avoid of that person at that time is bayal parei. Normally, like the Rabbi said before, we ask how to be nisayin. Normally we don't. We ask Hashem, don't give us a test. Right? Because we're afraid to go to klipa. Yeah? So Hashem says, yeah, you're right. But when I give you a test, the Medrash says, David and Bathsheba, yeah? Even though the Gemara says he didn't sin, she wasn't a married woman, the whole story, yeah? So why did Hashem give David HaMelech that test? So the Medrash says, David HaMelech said, B'chanuni, no. Give me a test. I want tests. Hashem says, no, you don't.
Would it be like the others?
Because you have a test. Who says you're going to pass? So they went, no, give me. So Hashem said, no problem. I'm going to give you a test, and you're going to fail. He didn't sin, and on his level, he failed. Why did Hashem allow him to fail? Because he showed David HaMelech, you don't ask
For a test.
for it out to be in the day nisayin. We don't ask for a test. Simultaneously, though, that when Hashem gives us a test, a person shouldn't be afraid. Conceptually, yeah, I'm hesitant to go, but then the Jew realizes he's not going alone. Bayal Pare, Hashem is coming with us.
Very important concept.
Yeah. In other words, how do you take on the day? How do you take on life with all the difficulties? That's why you have to first daven, and then you learn, right? And then Hashem is with you, and then you take on the day. And then instead of the day affecting you, you affect the day. You make the night day. Like it says at the beginning of Chumash, Vayi Eda, Vayi Beker, Yom Echad. It was evening, it was morning, one day. So Chassidus explains that by making the Erev into Beker, night, darkness, evil, into morning, becomes Yom Echad, the Gilui, the revelation of Hashem Echad. In other words, the role of a Jew is to make Erev into Beker. That's why, according to Yiddish calendar, the night precedes the day. Why did Hashem make Erev? We could make a day and then night, like the Goyim have, day and then night. Why do we have night and then day? Except by Kochim. By Kochim, the Laila goes after the day. But by everything else in life, in Jewish calendar, first you have the night and then you have the day. Why did they wish to make it that way? Because Hashem says, your avodah is, there's night, neshama coming down into the body. Is golus night, and the purpose of Erev is to make it into Beker. And then Yom Echad, the Gilu Yom, the revelation day of Echad.
Every day has many tests going. The small tests, and God forbid, big tests.
Not a God forbid. If Hashem gives you a test, it's because He trusts you more, and He knows you can. Why does a person have to? I know it's easier said than done, but let's talk about what's supposed to be. When a person has challenges, there's two ways of getting affected by it. You can get depressed, like most people do, and then the proper way of it is being besimcha. Look at this. Look how great I am that Hashem gave me a test that only I could do. Other people can't do it. Like the Rebbe told that guy, I'm jealous of you. That I could do this test that other people can't. Wow, look how much Hashem trusts me. So of course I could do it, because Hashem trusting me, that means He trusts me, He knows what I could do it. It's a whole different approach to life, by the way. Positive, versus negative.
Myself is
Depression
the-
versus simcha. Yeah.
So, is the work of a Jew then for 6 days to be a mishpia, and then the 7th day to be mushpat and Shabbat?
To a certain extent, yes. 6 days, a Jew elevates the world, which causes the Jew spiritually to create world, bringing Kedusha into the world. Because like we learned, Hashem in the 6 days of creation was creator. So Hashem is associated with world. So Hashem wants us 6 days to be associated with world and to bring Kedusha into the world. Shabbos, Hashem stopped creating, which means Hashem goes back to the higher than limitation of creation level. And a Jew, by not creating on Shabbos, is connected to the infinite level of Hashem.
Yom Kippur Shabbos, that's what we want.
That's Mashiach ultimately, the 7,000th year. Okay, so he says, okay. Because he had to be the beard of Anyeta. How can you elevate Parei? Is by feeling, connecting to the evil. But there is Kemakadosh Baruch Hu. Ubamiyatman, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu lichbes, Hashem couldn't care less. The pasuk says, Ki mivzeh ba mi Eden. Who is coming from Eden? Chom is begotten mi bat chom al bushe agolti. In all my garments, agolti I will redeem. Meaning, she'af al pi she'inyanim d'ulum ezeh, she'mislabesh bahem b'chadei levadam, that even though all the inyanim of world that a person has to put himself into to refine. You're running a business, you have to put yourself in the business to refine all that, the money and the gashmias and everything. Nikodim kaviyachal avush shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'atche nigla agolti mikama came ein nitbis b'zechas v'sholem. Hashem doesn't become effective from klipa. Hashem gives sustenance to klipa, but he's not, obviously he's not affected by it. Hashem remains holy. Okay? That's as far as Hashem is concerned. Hashem elevates the evil. Even Moshe Rabbeinu, this is not the Aveda normally, like we say. And if a person puts himself into a test, yeah, now the guy will say like this, okay, I'm going to go into, the Gemara's expression is a marketplace of zainas, of prostitutes, and I'm not going to sin. A person's not allowed to do that. And if he does, he's saying, I'm going to go sin and do tshuva. That then you can't do tshuva. But he says, Amnam kasher ish yisrael miskashem HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When he is bound with Hashem, by learning these things in Torah. And a person learns it in a way that he knows and he feels that level of Kedusha. They realize it's the Kedusha of Hashem. That what? And he knows Shakadosh Baruch Hu connected. The Gemara says that when a person learns, Hashem learns opposite him. Hashem learns opposite him. Like the pasuk says that the Rabbi Yitzchak Abaditchev, okay, would always repeat, and the pasuk Hashem Tzilcha. The pasuk says, we say it in davening every Shabbos, Hashem Tzilcha, and the Shir Malison, right? Hashem Tzilcha means, literally means Hashem is your protection. But Tzel means a shadow. What do you mean Hashem is your shadow? The shadow goes where you go. You don't go, unless if you're a little kid chasing, your shadow. Okay, but what is the definition? The Baal Shem Tov, the Badishra used to repeat it a lot, but it's the Baal Shem Tov's word. Hashem Tzilcha means Hashem is your shadow. Where you go, Hashem follows you. You learn, Hashem follows you. God forbid, you go into Klipa,
Hashem is with you there.
You're dragging Hashem into Klippa. There's an interesting story. There's a shliach at a big balabas that wanted him to go to a baseball game. Now, a baseball game is a pretty kosher entertainment, if you think about it. You sit in the stand and watch the game. Anyway, but the shliach didn't know what to do. So he wrote into the Rebbe. This guy, balabas, a big balabas, wants me to go to baseball. Should I go? So the Rebbe, so to speak, paraphrased the question. I remember the exact wording of it, but the Rebbe paraphrased the question as, so you're dragging me to the baseball game with you, basically. Because you're a shliach. So I go where you go. You're my shliach. So he says, so in other words, you're taking me to the baseball game. Thank you very much. I mean, think about it. It's a whole different perspective. No, which means like this. On a broader scale, every Jew is a shliach of Hashem. Shlucha shaladun kamaisi, Adam Elyon, right? Every Jew is born with a shlichus. We're all given a mission. That's a shliach. So you go down into Klippa, you go down to Mitzrayim. Hashem said, boy, chick, guess what? I'm coming with you. I'm your shadow. I go where you go. You go to Gedu, you learn, I'm learning. You go to Klippa, I'm going to Klippa. See, the Jew has to think to himself, that's where the Shekhinah is in Golus. Right? We drag like the Rebbe explains in Gersa Tshuva. Toshav Hay, you have to return to Hay because that level of Hay goes into Klippa. Shoshkim said to me sometimes, and it's okay, Hashem says, that's where you're taking me, okay, fine.
Hashem takes us out.
But Hashem's a nice guy. And he says, after the fact, why did you schlep me into evil? Why did I allow you to schlep me into evil? Hashem said, because I want to give you the opportunity to do tshuva that you couldn't have done if you didn't sin. And then tshuva puts you in a place that you wouldn't have reached otherwise. But again, after the fact, not before the fact. Before the fact, if you say, I'll sin and do tshuva, it's not going to let you do tshuva. It must speak and be other less is tshuva. But if a guy, after the fact, a Jew fell, he dragged the Eibishter, into evil. Why did Hashem do this? Because now he says, I wanted now that you should do tshuva and reach a higher level than before. It's remarkable concepts, all this stuff.
Careful every second. You have to be careful. Time. I mentioned this in the class the other day. In the world, they say time is money. At least in America, they do. According to Torah, time is life.
Preciousness.
They once asked, what would you do if you found out you have a few hours to live? So many years ago, and not that she's worthy of bringing up in the class, but they asked Madonna, what would you do if you found out you have a few hours to live? She said, I would eat potato chips and watch reruns. That's what she answered. I'll eat potato. Yeah, then it was a big tumult when she said it about this. Of a Jew here is that they have a few hours left to live. What would a proper Jew? They'll do tshuva, get things in order, spiritually speaking. Yeah, well, we're going to mikvah. But whatever, they would go to prepare themselves. So Hashem sometimes gives a Jew an opportunity. Everything's positive. After the fact of sin, it was an opportunity Hashem gave you to reach a level that you wouldn't have reached otherwise. The problem is, if you don't do tshuva, then you're even worse. Then you're stuck even worse. It's a whole different...
But because nice over similar bun, what happened to the
They gave us the koyach. The fact that it happened to Moshe Rabbeinu, it's mentioned in Torah, that means that every Jew has that ability.
Koyach to overcome any difficulty.
Right. Okay.
The koyach.